Cloud, sir.
So, so it's already 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, I'm starting to let people in. Well, you can switch off. Everybody switch off their videos and mute them.
Sir, yes, sir, I'll do it, sir.
Okay.
All right. So how are things there with the virus with him?
Oh well, it's complete lockdown here, so.
Ah, yeah? Okay. But is it working?
Well, you don't know, and the whole across the world actually, one doesn't know what people are counting and what people are not. So there are stories, good stories, bad stories.
Of course.
Okay. Okay, guys, it's 10 o'clock and we're ready to start. So welcome Miguel Andrade. And Miguel Andrade is a top-of-line laser coach. He works out of his company called Vienna Sailing. He used to be a coach at Sail Coach in Malta, and now he started his own company many years ago. He's come to India many times. And we're going to talk about heavy wind laser sailing, probably the most my most favorite topic. Laser sailing, of course, is my favorite topic, but heavy wind laser sailing is definitely a big topic for me. Okay, Miguel, I hand over to you. The presentation is on, and thanks very much for joining us and taking on the mantle of spending time with all the Indian sailors.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And like Suhim told, we are going to talk a bit about strong wind sailing in the laser. It is one of the most demanding conditions to sail this class, that's for sure, but it's also one of to bring you more pleasure. So what we will do is that we will go first to the requirements to sail fast during the upwind, then reaching downwind, and we are going to finish with talking a bit about what to do in all the maneuver parts. So tacking and jibing, how to keep the boat under control, and how to try to keep your speed as much as you can while you are doing those things. So we will start by the upwind, which is the next slide. And talking about the upwind, we are going to divide it first in two parts. The first one is the trimming part of it, and then the second one is the handling part of it. So let me start by telling you that no matter if you are a very heavy sailor, even overweight for the laser, it doesn't really matter. The sail trimming needs to be all the same. You need to be sure that the sail is trimmed for strong wind. And what we want is that we don't want an overpowered sail. So when we are looking to trimming in all these three types of conditions, on wave conditions, flat conditions, choppy, or even swell conditions, we want our sail to be first as flat as possible. And by flat, I mean that we need to try to open up the leech and to have the sail depowering, especially the top of the leech needs to be completely open so we can depower the sail. That will allow us next to be able to have the best handling we can, especially in terms of working of the main sheet. But let me go through steps. So starting in the flat conditions. The trimming, as you are going to see, is very similar in terms of the different wave conditions. Starting with the flat ones, in terms of trimming, we want our sail, as I told you, as flat as we can. To achieve that, we need to try first to pull our canningham as much as we can. By pulling the canningham, we are reducing the camber of the sail. The camber means the deepness of the sail, power on the sail, the shape. We are making it as flat as possible, and we are opening the top of the leech. If the canningam is not tight enough, you will always feel that the boat wants to point to the wind. You will always be oversteering. You will be doing always this, a lot of strength with the rudder to keep the boat sailing in the angle you want. A lot of weather helm. So we need to pull our canningam as much as we can. After that, we need to pull the kicker, of course. And the kicker needs to be very, very tight as well. Again, to open up the leech, to flatten the sail, and to allow us to work the main sheet. That goes already into the handling part. In these flat conditions, normally when we have this intensity of wind, you will also going to have a lot of gusts and a lot of lulls. And in all the gusts and lulls, we need to work the main sheet accordingly. But in this strong breeze, since we hike, we are in complete hiking position, we need to be sure that when we want to depower the sail, we don't necessarily need to change our angle. We don't need to move the rudder too much. So by giving this extra amount of kicker, that will allow us to, when we release the main sheet, the boom will go out and not up. So if you imagine, as I pull and pull and pull a kicker, if you think about the last block in the boom and the block on your traveler, on the stern of the boat, you are going to have a very big angle in between the two. And that will allow the boom, when you release the main sheet, to go out and not up. And by going out, you are already depowering the sail, but not necessarily changing too much the angle of entrance of your sail, the angle of attack. So you don't need to change too much. Also, that allows us, the kicker allows you to pull the canningam that much, because by having the sail so flat, the entrance of the sail, the entrance for the wind, is going to be very narrow. So we need to be able to work our main sheet a lot. And before I pass on to the waves, I need to explain you a bit what we want out of this hiking position that I have written there. I wrote in that we want to hike out from the top of your toes. That sounds easy when you listen it first, but it's not easy at all. So you need to imagine that for us to be able to completely control the boat, we need to have maximum contact all the time. And to achieve that max of contact with the boat, we need to first lock ourselves on the boat, and second, have our legs completely stretched. So to be able to put your legs completely together with the whole of the boat, we will need to do two things. First of all, we need to pull our hiking strap quite tight, even in these conditions. And I'm going to explain you why. We need to have the hiking strap quite tight. So when you hike from the top of your toes, the tension of the strap will force your ankle to stretch, to open up, and that will put your legs completely together with the hole. So imagine you have your feet like this, and then when you stretch, when you open your ankles, automatically your legs will stretch. And the distance between the back of your knee and the boat will reduce a lot. So you will have max contact over there. That's the hardest part. After you are locked with your feet, then of course your shoulders need to come as out as possible. So you completely stretch out. And after that, your shoulders never return up, or at least ideally your shoulders never return up. Of course, you need to be very, very fit for that, but you want to keep your shoulders out, and then all the movements you are going to do on the boat are going to come first from your legs, and then that's going to translate on the movement of your upper body. It cannot be in the other way around. Just upper body work is not going to be effective, because once you open once you work with your legs, in flat conditions, for example, in a gust, you release the main sheet and you want to pump with your legs. So the mast bend changes, and actually you are affecting the rig, and you are keeping the boat doing what you want. If it is just with upper body, then nothing is going to work. Another very important thing in this hiking position, starting with the flat conditions, is that if we need to work our main sheet so much, and we want to keep our upper body, constantly out, then we need to make sure that our hand of the main sheet is high enough on our chest, so I can work my main sheet just with my arm, and I can keep my upper body out. Otherwise, nothing makes sense, because if I'm trying to depower in the sail to keep my boat flat, but at the same time I'm going in with my upper body, the boat is going to heel still to leeward if I go inside my upper body. So the upper body stays out all the time, and this constant work of rudder and main sheet in this case in flat conditions, main sheet, need to be done only with your arm. So now that we went through the basic things to keep the boat under control in this heavy wind, which is, again, having our sail as flat as possible, pulling the canning and the kicker. And by flat, I mean opening the leech completely and having a very narrow entrance on the sail. We go through the hiking position, which is opening up our ankles, hiking from the top of your toes and keeping our upper body as low as possible. Having this, then we can go into more demanding conditions, which is, well, we need to add waves. Choppy and swell, they differ a bit because choppy and swell, the difference first is the size of the waves. The swell is a lot bigger. But more importantly than that, the difference is the frequency. Choppy conditions, normally the waves come in a bigger frequency. In swell conditions, you have less frequency because the wave come is very big, so you have time to go up the wave, go down the wave, and then repeat the process. In choppy conditions, everything happens a lot faster. However, when we go into choppy conditions, one could think that, okay, since I'm going to fight waves, I will need to give more power to my sail. That's not true. We still want exactly the same shape because our main priority is going to be to keep our boat constantly flat. And to do that, we have to have the same trimming. Also because since it's going to be more demanding in terms of handling, a lot more of main sheet, a lot more of rudder, we still need this forgiving sail for me to work the main sheet as much as I want. So I keep my trimming on choppy conditions. Maybe in some very, very choppy conditions, I can play a bit with my outhaul. I can release it a little bit, but it's just a little bit. The outhaul in this case doesn't necessarily control power. It just controls the draft of the sail. So if I release a little bit more, my draft is going to go forward. So the deepness, the little deepness I will have in the sail will go a little bit more forward. And that's what I want because, well, I need if I need some little extra power to fight the waves, to be able to steer my boat as I want. So trimming, about the same. The handling, however, changes a lot. All the people that are seeing, even if they are opti sailors, you know it, that when you have waves, my main problem is to don't smash against the waves. So I will need to steer along the waves to be able to go fast as I want. So this bow stability, how do I achieve it? That's the main difference now in these conditions. Okay, in terms of handling, as I told you, our position, hiking-wise, keeps being exactly the same. But now, more than the main sheet, I will need to add steering. I will need to add rudder. And in the Laser is one of the few boats that you can be quite aggressive with your steering in these conditions. What I want is that, now let's imagine one wave at a time, and let's imagine the movement on that particular wave. And then, of course, that's the same for all the waves. As I'm going up the wave, I want to point slightly, and then as I point slightly, because I'm going up, I point slightly because the apparent wind allows me to point slightly. I go with my body weight to the back leg, to the stern. I turn my body weight to the stern. So my bow lifts a bit. At the top of the wave, if the wave is tall enough for that, I want to release slightly my main sheet and to contract my legs. It's like a pump. Imagine that you are pumping. In any other boat, you would move your upper body. In the Laser, you keep the upper body out and you just contract. You squeeze your legs on the top as you release the main sheet. This will again depower the sail and make sure your boat keeps flat. Then going down the wave, you don't necessarily need to bear away a lot with your rudder, but you need to fall a little bit forward with your body weight, release a little bit the main sheet, and bear away as you need. You will need to always bear down as you go down the wave. Otherwise, if you keep this movement up and down, and you forget the down, at some point you will be so close to the wind that you will not be able to steer because your luff is going to start flapping and the boat is going to lose all its speed. So basically what we want is to keep our bow stable all the time. We want to go up a bit as we go up the wave so the bow doesn't smash. We want to, on the top, to squeeze it so the boat keeps completely flat and the bow starts to come down. And going down the wave, we want the bow to go down a bit. Well, imagining to go down like if we want to surf, but more than that, because we want to build up angle and speed to go up the next wave again. In terms of rudder and main sheet, it seems quite easy, no? It's just pull, release, and then go down, pull, release, and then go down. The hard part is that both the rudder, the main sheet, and the body movement need to happen exactly at the same time, and they need to happen together because they enhance one another. So meaning that the rudder will not be enough by itself, the main sheet will not be enough by itself, and the body movement will not be enough by itself. So if you are sailing in these conditions and you are still struggling, it means that one of the things is not there yet. Everything is not coming together. The body movement is really specific. As I'm going down up the wave, and when I point, and when I say that my body weight goes backwards, I need to be, again, hiking, locked on my strap. And what I do is that my body weight goes into the back leg by me twisting my hip. I twist the hip, and because I twist the hip, the upper body follows. It's not just the upper body, it's not an opti. I cannot just go and work my upper body. That's not going to do absolutely anything to the boat. The same on the top and the same going down. All the movement comes out of the hips. I move the hips and instantly I move my upper body as well as I go along. So that's really, really important. What is going to happen is that sometimes the choppy is so frequent that it's going to be really hard for you to understand in which stage you are on this movement. When I coach sailors in these conditions, I try to tell them to follow a simple rule, which is try to always give the leeward side of the bow to the wave. That means that no matter what's the frequency, you are always going to be trying to go up the wave, avoiding the splash. And more than that, when I say give the leeward side of the bow to the wave, I'm saying that, okay, since some waves is going to be impossible to do the complete smooth movement, at least I'm going to gain some windward with it, and I'm not going to completely splash against the wave. To do that, I just do exactly the same movement, but my steering, as the choppy gets more and more and more, I just need to be even more and more and more aggressive with my steering. That's really important. Going into swelly conditions, the main change is that the difference on the apparent wind is going to be a lot bigger. Okay, the apparent wind is, imagine you have an object coming in your way, so that produces wind in a certain direction, in this case in the wave direction, and that's going to go together with the real wind that you have, and that's going to produce a different direction that you can use. So in swell, in these big waves, I will be able to point a lot higher as I go up the wave, but I will also need to bear away quite a lot as I go down, because I have like a shadow zone, I have a lot less wind, and the wind goes back again. So I'm always going to be doing this movement. This change is quite drastic. So people that are not used to sailing this in big swell, sometimes they struggle. So the main thing is to find the neutral angle. What I mean by finding a neutral angle is that you need to find an angle in which, okay, I'm going to try to squeeze and use the wave to point as high as I can. However, I need to remember that after that, when I arrive to the top, once my bow arrives to the top, I need to be bedding away already. And when I bed away enough for my sail not to flap and for me to keep the contact with the boat and for the boat to keep flat. If you are too greedy and you try to squeeze too much as you go high, then after the top, the boat will fall to your side because you will lose all the power, because you will be almost heading to the wind, to the new wind. So be sure that you don't overtake these angles that you can achieve in one and another. Okay, it needs to be always somewhere in between. If I have such a drastic difference of wind, especially at the top where is the max, then the work of my main sheet needs to be a lot bigger, because again, I want to keep my boat flat. And this brings us again to the same thing as I was telling you in the beginning. It doesn't change anything. You can be the biggest, strongest guy in the world. You will need to work the main sheet, otherwise the boat will not be flat. So be sure that at the top, you open up the main sheet to depower even more the sail, okay? By opening up the main sheet and pumping, You are depowering the sail, allowing the boat to keep flat. Flat is the key because, well, if the boat is flat, it's very easy to understand. More centerboard on the water. That means that all the power and all the effort that you are putting in is to make the boat move forward, straight, almost, well, inside of what you can. Less centerboard on the water, half of the energy is being wasted. You are drifting quite a lot. So that's why the boat needs to be always, always, always flat. Before we go to the video and we see all these specific things I'm just showing you, you have to have the notion then, why do you need to be completely stretched? If, for example, I sail with my hiking strap loose and I hike from my ankles instead of the top of my toes, what I will have is my butt very close to the water and will be very hard for me to stretch my upper body. And there will be no connection with the boat because, well, if I want to come in, if I want to come out, if I want to twist my body, there is no connection. There is no way I can do this with a hiking strap so loose. And more than that, by having your legs, your butt, and your upper body lower, because, well, if I release a lot my hiking strap, then my body will be lower. By being lower, that doesn't change the amount of weight I have outside of the boat, counterbalancing the power of the sail. It's exactly the same amount of weight. It's like if you completely bend your back backwards when the gust comes instead of releasing the main sheet. That doesn't change anything. The amount of weight that is out is exactly the same. So be sure to understand that the key in these conditions is to use very, very well the main sheet. You need to be clever. That's your protection. That's why people underweight can still be very fast in these conditions as long as they have the right technique. So going into the video then, what you will see here, and I want you to compare, we are going to see the video quite a lot of times, okay? So we have two different situations. One, taking the boat totally flat and with a good hiking position. The other one, the boat is not flat and the hiking position is quite bad because the shoulders are up. And you can see the difference in terms of the bow stability and speed. One thing you need to understand about this video before we replaying, they are not overlapped. The boat on the right is not with the dirty air. That's just the illusion by the angle that I'm filming. They are not overlapped, meaning that the boat on leeward is not going slower because of dirty wind. It's just technique. Huh? Remember that I'm filming in this angle from the back, so you cannot see the deepness on the shot. So let's see it again. Look at the technique. Look at the shoulders well down. All the movement comes from the legs, hiking from the top of the toes, the boat on windward, okay? So that's really important. And that position keeps, the upper body keeps out as possible, and all the work comes from the legs. So you see movement, but the movement comes out of the hips every time. If the movement is bigger, then the amount of hips he uses is also more, okay? And he keeps doing the same. Of course, that is not easy to keep this position. Another thing, and before I play it again, I think we are all in the same part of the video. Now I want you to look at the leech of the sail before I restart the video. Notice that the top of the leech is completely open, okay? You will say, well, the sail looks so ugly. Yeah, it looks ugly, but it's fast. If I don't have this shape of the leech, I will not be able to use my main sheet properly. I will not be able to depower the sail enough for me to keep the boat flat, for me to have the proper steering. So this is the shape of the sail I'm looking for if you look at from the back, because that's the main difference, is the shape of the leech and the angle of attack, the entrance as well. So going back again, now focus on his rudder and main sheet use. Notice that he's rarely going block to block, and every time he needs, he releases more the main sheet. Notice as well that the main sheet and rudder are coordinated. If I'm pointing, I'm pulling. If I'm bending away, I'm releasing. If I need to hike even more and contract my legs to the power, I release as well, okay? And the amount of main sheet I will release is only related with the amount of power I need to give away, the amount of depowering I need to do. So if I need to depower more, I release more my main sheet. There is literally no limit. Release as much as you want as long as the boat is flat. That's the main thing, okay? The last thing is that you see that the difference between the boats as well is that the boat on windward keeps his bow a lot more stable. You see that the bow goes up and down, goes left and right instead of up and down like the other one. The other one is just smashing in all the waves, goes up and then goes down completely. Okay, so that's really important to keep the bow as stable as possible. This represents speed, represents that all the effort is moving you forward, 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 forward. So that's quite important. Huh? In terms of ankle, a little detail, for you to be able to hike from the top of your toes like you are seeing in the video, that requires quite a lot of practice because you will feel that it hurts quite a lot. Huh? It hurts a lot to have that opening on your ankles. For you to achieve that position, of course, you need to hike a lot, first of all, but then it also helps to swim with, it's not flip-flops, with the big things on your feet. That also helps to build up some resistance for the ankles. But it's quite important that you start slowly because if you try to hike like this straight away, it's very easy to build up a lot of injuries. Okay, and this is they are the main things on the upwind part.
Miguel, can you just play the video again? I just want to show them the...
Sorry.
The leech. If you can start talking about the leech from here. By the way, guys, this is the MK2 sail. It's the new, I think, bi-radial or tri-radial. It's the new laser sail. Just watch the leech while it's going up. That's how much it needs to be open. Yeah, Miguel, you can talk about it.
Yeah, okay. In the end of the video, it's easier to see. Here in this perspective, the top is completely open. Huh? Yeah. Okay, now let's go to a part where it's more fun, no? So the pain came before, and now we can have a little bit more fun on the laser. So going into reaching and into downwind. Okay, let's go to reaching first. First of all, people sometimes think that reach is so easy because, well, it's just the boat goes fast and the boat goes fast and it seems very easy. But when you are competing, especially in the laser, in strong wind is where you see the major differences in terms of speed amongst the fleet, because it actually requires a lot of work in terms of balance, stability, and to keep the boat planning all the time. So that's our main goal with this type of conditions. We want to keep having the boat planning, just going. If we have waves, then we want the boat to keep planning, and we need to be able to do that by using the waves as well, or at least to use the waves not to slow us down. Because imagine, in reaching, it's quite hard actually to have the waves coming from the back. Normally they come from the side. And then doesn't allow us to use them too much. However, let's start again with the trimming. In this strong wind, the first mistake a lot of people do is that they don't pull the kicker enough, okay? You need to be quite aggressive in terms of trimming in this part of your race when reaching. The kicker needs to be quite on. The kicker needs to be on, so again, our leech is opening up. Otherwise, the sail will be overpowered. More than that, the kicker needs to be on enough because we will need to change a lot our bearing along the reach, and I will explain that after. So the kicker allows us that. In terms of outwall and Cunningham, I only pull first the Cunningham if I'm feeling overpowered. But normally, I will not need to move these two settings. The kicker is what defines the setting in reaching, okay? So in these conditions, a little bit more of kicker, so the top of the leech has a little bit of twist, the sail opens up a bit, and that will allow me to play all the gust, lulls, waves, okay? And that comes the most important, or one of the most important parts of handling in the reach. You need to go up as you are in a lull, okay? If the wind decreases, then I'm going up to keep up my speed. When I have a gust, I bear away and I go low, okay? What that allows me is to keep the deepness that I want in the reach. Imagining a mark, and I want to do a ram line. I want to go in the straightest and fastest route to the mark. Of course, that sounds very easy, but then with other boats in the playground, that becomes harder and harder and harder, okay? Beside all the strategy that I might have of going low or going high, depending on current, depending on wind shadows and so on, I need to keep in mind that I need to always keep the boat balanced, and use this wind lack of stability, the gust and lulls, to always keep my speed. So to keep my boat planning, I need to be really concerned about this, which is, okay, the wind increased, I'm going to enjoy that to go a little bit lower. I better wait and I release the main sheet and I increase my speed by doing that. Then the lull comes, how do I keep my speed? Okay, I pull my main sheet and I go up a bit. And I keep playing this game, so I keep my boat planning. So now imagine, in really strong conditions, you have these differences on intensity of wind. And the difference between a boat that is constantly planning and another boat that stops and then goes again is of 2-3 knots maybe in the laser. And that's quite a lot. Even in a small reach, that's a lot of difference. So make sure you follow this pattern of gust, lull, gust, lull. More than that, change a bit your hiking position. You will need to be hiking again, but I need to go aft on the boat. I need to go back on the boat. Why? Because, well, since I'm in a different angle to the wind, I want my bow to be further out of the water. Otherwise, I'm just dragging water. Since the power of the sail went a little bit more forward because I released the main sheet, I'm sailing in a different angle, then I need my bow to be even further up. So I hike a little bit more aft. I arc aft, maybe a little bit diagonally, and I keep contact with the boat again. Upper body out. Again, the hiking strap completely tight, because if I need to come in or out, I need to do it very fast. Because imagine, as I'm bearing away on the gust, for example, that's going to create a lot of weather helm. The boat will want to fall to my side, so I will need to come a little bit more inside. As I point up, the opposite thing will happen. The boat will want to go to leeward, so I will need to go a little bit more out, okay? And since I'm sitting so much aft in these very strong conditions, I will automatically hike a little bit diagonally, because in very wavy conditions, it's actually okay to have the boat always slightly, just a bit, heeled to leeward, to allow the rocking on the waves and to lose balance and to damage the shape of our sail. That's quite okay. So keep that position while hiking. It's a different thing than when upwind. And then you can see here in the slide main sheet work. Well, the main sheet work goes along with the gusts, goes along with the puffs, but also goes along with keeping the boat in the same angle all the time. Keep it stable. If the boat rocks, that will make the boat stop planning and that will damage your speed. So we don't want that. There's a lot of main sheet work involved. It's not that easy at all, okay? Before I pass it on, reaching is a little bit more basic in terms of technically and theming, but actually has a lot of strategy involved, okay? So I want you to take 2 topics before we pass on. Even in these strong conditions, you will always have the options of, okay, I rounded my windward mark. Now, should I go high and windward all the time? Or should I go low, making the less distance to the mark most of the times, because the fleet will go up all the time? And should I go low from the inside and do less distance? Okay, you need to base this accordingly to where you are on the fleet. If I'm on the top or on the bottom of the fleet, I will not struggle to make the straight line to the mark, because I will have clear wind and I will have the chance to do that. If I'm in the middle of the fleet, however, I will have to make this option. The option comes first from, okay, the fleet is all going so high that I'm going to do the straightest line to the mark. That's fine. Then we are just changing our strategy accordingly to the behavior of the fleet and the position of the other boats. But we also have to have the conditions in consideration. If, for example, I'm reaching and I have a side current pushing me away from the mark, then I will need to go a little bit more higher, okay? If I have the current pushing me into the mark, then I will need to go a little bit more lower. That's the current, which is quite easy to understand as well. The other important thing is, if I'm sailing and I'm seeing that the wind is dying off, I should go leeward. Because if I'm sailing, reaching, like in this image you are seeing here in the PowerPoint, imagine the wind is coming, and if it's going to die off, it's going to die off a little bit before, so I want to enjoy that from the inside. The other way around is also true. So keep that in mind when you make your strategy. Having the video now, as we dedicated only to strong breeze, is going to be in really strong wind, the video. Okay, what you can see here is that is hiking a lot aft on the boat, on the back. It's quite a lot in the back of the boat. Again, the same type of hiking position, okay? Upper body out, keeping the bow always out of the water. And even if you cannot see, he's playing the main sheet, okay? He's constantly playing the main sheet. The waves are coming sideways, so it's quite hard for him to keep the balance on the boat. Notice as well that his leech is partially open, not as open as it was when he was going upwind, but quite open. So that's what we want in terms of trimming, okay? The leech is partially open, outwell and Canningham. Outwell is completely off. He actually has a bit of Canningham because he was feeling overpowered in that day. But I want you to focus mainly on the hiking position. And as we are going to see it again now, I want you to look at his hand of the main sheet. It's easier for you to see that he's working the main sheet on that. Look at his hand of the main sheet. High on the chest, and it works. It releases and it pulls. It releases and it pulls as it needs, okay? More power, more wind, better way release, then goes up again. Release, goes up again. Notice that the bow is always lifted, okay? In quite a lot. So the boat keeps planning. One mistake you are seeing in the video is that, as you notice, the hiking strap is a little bit loose. Not a lot though. You might have released during the upwind. But even just a bit loose, look what is happening. The hiking strap is a little bit loose, so he's constantly going with his body into the waves, into the water, dragging his body, slowing down the boat. That's why it needs to be the hiking strap super tight. Huh? Your butt cannot drag on the water. That will completely stop the boat. We don't want that at all. Okay, so be sure to have these three things in concern. Trimming, opening up the leech partially, going up and down with the different intensities, and keeping your hiking position aft and in control, completely locked with the boat, okay? And that's the reaching. It's a small part of the race. You cannot make massive gains in a reach, but you can lose some. And well, you know that even 1 point is quite important in a competition. Sometimes you win or lose just by 1 point. So you want to be fast enough on the reach. Okay, now we go to, in my point of view, in a coaching point of view, we go to one of the hardest parts, the one that requires more hours on the water, the one that requires more feeling, which is the downwind. You can be incredibly fast in very strong breeze in the laser, and you can also be incredibly slow and you can capsize 1,000,000 times. It's quite easy to do both. So the first concept we need to understand is that you have a better VMG, meaning you have a better speed, even doing a little bit of extra distance by sailing in angles, than you have by sailing in a straight line. First, let's consider there is no waves. So there is it's not a discussion of being able to surf the waves or not yet, okay? Let's imagine we are in flat conditions in strong breeze, and let's imagine the difference between sailing in a straight line or always with some angle, okay? The laser, like many other dinghies, sails faster if the wind is going across the sail, okay? So we always need to have some angle. Imagine this. If I'm sailing straight down, I'm trapping the wind on the sail. The wind is just being trapped on the sail. So that creates, first of all, that creates friction because I'm going forward and wind is going to come in front of me because of my speed on the boat, okay? So I'm just trapping the wind and I'm creating like a bubble in front of my sail where the wind is fighting me, okay? So that's going to first affect the shape of my sail. Second, is going to reduce a lot the flow of wind on the leeward side of the sail, which we know is quite useful by when we're sailing up and when we are reaching. So we don't want that. That also creates a lot of instability on the boat. The pressure and the flow is not going to be constant. So the boat is always going to be very nervous. You will not be able to predict what the boat is going to do. You are not going to be able to control what is happening with the boat. It's going to keep rolling, and being very, very hard for you to control. So we are slower because we have less power. And the boat is less stable because we cannot predict what is going to happen. By sailing in an angle, I'm having the wind going across the sail, okay? So if you imagine going by the lee, so if I'm in a dead angle downwind and I bear away further than that, then I'm going to have leeward flow in the opposite direction, but I'm going to have leeward flow. So the boat will be more stable and faster. If I reach, I go positive, I will also have leeward flow. So the boat will be more stable and will be faster. So wind across the sail is always faster, okay? Also, when the wind is coming across, since you have both leeward and windward flow, the boat lifts a lot more. So that also helps. Less drag, faster you go, okay? So this is a couple of things for you to understand. Okay, why should I just sail straight line to the mark? Is the shortest way. Is the shortest way, yes, but you go so much slower that it pays off to do angles and a bit of extra distance. Sometimes that distance might even be a lot more and it still pays off, because then we need to add another thing which normally we have in these strong wind conditions, which is the waves. Which is the waves. If we have waves, that's another necessity for us to sail with angles. Because if I'm sailing in a straight line, two things will happen. Either the wave is faster than me and I will never surf it, or the wave is slower than me and I will crash against the wave in front of me. So I will be completely trapped. Again, I will struggle to have stability. I will struggle to have balance on the boat. I will struggle a lot to keep control and to go fast. So straight line is a no-no, again, in these conditions. So I will need to do angles, okay? Before we go to the technique of surfing, of actually surfing, let's go again into trimming, okay? The outwell and the Cunningham can be completely off, okay? However, the Cunningham, in very, very heavy wind conditions, you can pull it a bit, just to take out the wrinkles of the luff, just in very, very strong conditions. But the outwell in the Cunningham normally until 18, 20 knots can be completely off. Then again, the kicker is going to control what is happening with my sail. What I want is enough kicker for the leech to be open, okay? To be open, but to have some twist on the top. But cannot be too much kicker, because then I will not be able to change my angles easy, okay? So I have to have enough. I have to have enough kicker to have balance, control, to have the leech in the shape I want, which is opening a little bit on the top, but still with shape. I need to see it flicking. And I cannot have too much, because I need to remember that I need to go up and down, okay? And going down is going to be particularly hard if I have too much kicker. The rudder is not going to respond, because if I have too much kicker, the boat will always want to point up, okay? So I need to trim my kicker accordingly. After I have the kicker set, then I can start sailing properly on the downwind. And now we go into the technique on the downwind itself. Is one of the hardest things, because the playground is never the same. Upwind you can say, okay, take it as flat as you can, and it's always true. You want to take it as flat as you can, and you want to work the waves always in the same way. The waves can be in a million different shapes, but the work is exactly the same. Downwind, no. The waves are always different, and that's going to lead us to a different path every time. So that's going to change the way we approach it every time. So it requires a lot of technical knowledge, yes, but it requires a lot of sensibility and a sense of opportunity when you are sailing in those conditions in that particular day. Following the technical part, okay? What we want is, I'm sailing. So now let's imagine one wave, only one wave, for you to understand the movement. And then it repeats itself over and over, okay? Not in the same way, as I said before, but it repeats itself because the concept is the same. So I go up, I pull my main sheet and I go up a bit to catch the wave. By going up a bit, I increase my boat speed that allows me to go into the wave, okay? Once I am on the wave, I want to bear away and go into a bilateral angle, because with that angle, I can keep surfing the wave for longer, okay? Because if I just catch it and then go straight down, I'm going to crash against the next one. So I catch it and I bet away enough to an angle of by the lee that I can keep the wave for as long as I can. That sounds very easy, but it isn't, because we need to add body weight and main sheet and healing into the game. So as I'm pointing up, okay, to catch the wave, I pull my main sheet, I point up, and I want the boat to fall a bit to my side. So if I'm sitting on the boat, I'm locked on the boat, I want the boat to fall to my side. As it heels to my side, the boat will by itself bear away. So the need of use of rudder is going to diminish. So less steering, less drag, more speed. So the boat falls to my side. As it falls to my side, it starts bearing away. At the same pace as it bears away, I need to release my main sheet accordingly. If I don't keep up with the release of my main sheet, the boat will lose power, you will lose stability, and you will not catch the wave. So I release my main sheet as I bear away, okay? As I bear away more and more and more, I will be on the wave surfing. I will need to gradually put more and more body weight into the leeward side of the boat. So usually my advice to the sailors is, with the hand of your tiller extension, you go to the other side of the boat with your hand and you press on it. You put more and more body weight on that hand. That is going to flatten the boat by contradicting the boat wanting to go to your side to weather helm, because, well, you are bearing away and the force is going further and further out. So the boat wants to capsize, okay? Wants to just go to your side, roll to your side. So I make it flatter and flatter and flatter by pressing on it, okay? I press, and by the time the boat is flat, you are going to see that either because you reduce speed because you are finishing surfing that wave, or either because you used your body weight, that is going to allow you to go up again, almost without using rudder, because the boat becomes flatter, and then as you start slowing down, it loses power, so it leans to the sail side, and as it leans to the sail side, it points up by itself. Again, less rudder usage, so I'm going to go faster, and this is the movement, okay? Just going to my side, it pedals away by itself, flattening it until it goes to the sail side and it points up again. The idea would be, okay, I need to do an upturn going up to catch it. I need to do a downturn to go to the next wave, as I am in the bottom and I want to go to the next one, okay? To be able to perform this movement, beside the heeling control and beside the main sheet keep up with the angles, I need to have a very locked position in the boat, because I will need to move my body weight from one side to another. And because I need to move my body weight to one side to another. Well, saying this presentation seems like we have all the time in the world, but as you know, on the water is a small portion of time. So we need to be able to go very fast to one side and the other. So what I usually recommend is have your back leg under the strap, okay? So around the strap, and you put your knee, your back knee on the cockpit, down on the cockpit, okay? And that leg that is around the strap, with your cuff, you are going to be able to pull the boat to lean it to your side as you go up to do the upturn, and you will be able to press on it and lean and put your hand of the tiller in the other side by leaning on that knee to flatten the boat as you go down, okay? That will help you. It will make you stable. Will make you have contact through the hiking strap. The other leg, the front leg, I put it standing up, feet on the cockpit, and as far forward as I can, okay? Why? Because beside this movement of windward, leeward, as you know, following the same concept as in the upwind and in the reach, I will also have to level my bow. So I will need to move forward and backwards, and that front leg is going to help me. As I go up, once I get in the wave, okay, once I am almost going by the lead, I want my bow to go down. That will help me surf the wave. So body weight forward. As I go up and I'm trying to catch the wave, and when I'm getting in the wave, the moment I'm getting in the wave, I want my bow to lift. Okay, so I go backwards with my body weight. And all this windward, leeward, half forward movement needs to be coordinated by the legs again. So all your body weight is almost standing on the legs. If you are sitting on the rail, you are not going to be fast enough to do these transits, and it will be very hard for you to keep stability on the boat. So don't just sit on the rail. The body weight needs to be as much in the middle as possible. So you are almost completely neutral, because the change of angles is too much. So the only body weight you need to add and take away needs to be on your legs. If you are sitting on the rail, then it's going to be really hard for you to perform this movement, okay? And you go along, okay? This is quite easy to understand. And you are going to ask, why do you flatten, why do you put your body weight into the leeward side when you go by the lee to come back up? Because, well, the boat eventually will come back up again, because as the leech works out and the flow, the leeward flow diminishes, the boat will want to come up by itself again. Okay, the idea is we are trying to use the heel, is kinetics. We are trying to use the heel by pressing it, and then we use our body weight to just produce more speed. We just squeeze the boat. It's like in attack. It's like when you pump out of attack, you want to take out more speed by using the heel. It's a matter of kinetics. It's the same in these conditions. I'm going by the lee and I press on it. When I do this, I squeeze the boat. I increase the leeward flow. I make the leech flick more, and I gain extra speed. As you go up, you can also do it. I'm going up again, and as I'm going up, I pump the boat to my side, so it heels to my side. When I do that, I'm also, again, using the heel that I had to produce more speed for the entrance of the wave. So that's why you use, is a connection between heel and body weight. You are putting it together to produce more speed, okay? As now you understand, and you are going to see on the video, if you take the rudder out of your boat and you perform this movement, the movement is going to be performed exactly in the same way. So you know exactly what to do in each point in time. It doesn't matter if it is 20 knots, 30 knots, 40 knots. The boat is going to behave exactly in the same way. And by doing these angles, you can keep it under control quite easily, because you are in control. You are locked in the boat. You know exactly what the wind is going to do on the boat. If it's going to produce windward heel, if it's going to produce leeward heel, you know exactly in which point in time. So you can be ready to keep it flat, to keep it balanced, sorry, and to keep it stable, okay? However, now you say, okay, I'm surfing a wave already. I'm going in the wave. Where do I go next? Okay, understand that this transition, this S type of sailing, okay, is not a repeating movement. It's not like, okay, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. No, it doesn't work like that, okay? It doesn't even, it's not the movement itself that provides you speed. The movement is a need, okay? You need to do it, okay? But you need to do it to catch and keep the wave, okay? Now, you can either, depending on the wave's pattern, you can even keep going by the lee for 2-3 times. You can, for example, catch a wave by going positive. And when you try to get a way to go by the lee, you will see, oh no, I need to point up again. Okay, my first goal is just to catch and keep the wave. If the wave is coming in different angles, that is going to produce a different pattern in terms of transitions, okay? So once I'm surfing the wave, what I need to try to look at and to search is intersections on the waves. What is intersections? Okay, intersections or gaps is when you have on the sea, you have a lot of different waves, different heights, different speeds, different waves. So those different waves are always going to connect somehow. Because of this difference on height and speed, there are always going to be lower points and higher points. So there is always going to be a path for you to go where you don't need to smash against the wave in front of you, and you can overtake it and go to the next one, okay? So this intersection concept, where different waves of different heights and intensities meet, is a concept that you can take when you are in overtaking mode, meaning when it's really strong wind and you are overtaking waves, you are faster than the waves. So you look for these connections, for these low points to jump from one wave to another. And that's a game changer. This is the main difference between a fast sailor and an astronomic fast sailor, an Olympic sailor, okay? Is the ability to search for these intersections. meaning that you will not stop the boat at any point in time. You will be able to go from one wave to another to keep it surfing, 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 surfing. Of course, it is really hard because, like I told you in the beginning, every day is different. So it's going to be really hard for you to understand where are the gaps, where are not the gaps. But that's a thing, and you need to try to search for it. Because if I'm catching a wave, but then I lose the next one, for example, or I smash against the one in front of me, that is going to create a lot of instability on the boat because I will receive apparent wind from the one that is coming back again. And the movement is going to feel quite strange. You are going to have a time where the boat is not surfing, so you are going a lot slower. So that's not good. You will lose places by doing that. So this is basically it, okay? As the wind increases more and more, I will need to move my body weight further, half, then half, then half. In really strong wind conditions, in overtaking conditions, I should change a little bit my position, the position of my legs, okay? So what I will do is that I will keep, okay, my back leg under the strap, like in previously, but what I will do now is that my feet will be a little bit further back on the cockpit because I'm sitting backwards. So these feet, the back leg, is going to be further back on the boat, okay? Under the strap, but further back. My other leg, the front leg, is going to be almost stretched and my feet is going to be touching the front of the cockpit to allow me to be further aft and to play a lot back and forward because that's going to be very needed when you are in overtaking conditions to control the bow level, to avoid just smashing and dunking on a wave. And I should grab more down on my tiller extension, almost in the universal joint, to have further control, because here steering is going to be a little bit more important in overtaking conditions, like in 25 knots, because if you try to heel, oh, that's quite a dangerous game in those conditions. So maybe a little bit more of steering will help you to be a little bit more safe. So that's the only difference in terms of positions, okay? So let's see it then now on the videos. So this is surfing conditions, okay? Maybe 15, 18 knots. What you can see in the video is he's positioning as much in the middle of the boat as possible, and he's following the pattern of the waves. Try to always surf it. So there is a change of angle. You can see more body weight into the sail side as he goes by the lee, pressing, 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 pressing. Since it's very strong wind, it doesn't need to heel the boat too much. You can see the leech flicking and then back to the top to catch the next wave, okay? And the movement is always the same. Let me put the video again. So body weight as much in the middle as possible. See the top of the leech flicking. That's what we want out of our kicker. And check what I told you about the transits, always with an angle, searching which is the fastest route, where are the intersections, and going for it. Keeping the bow out of the water, pressing, going by the lee, pulling when you go positive. It's very fast, and keeping up with the main sheet. Check how much main sheet he has to pull and release when he changes the angles. It's quite a lot. Huh? Let's see it once more. This is a very, very hard pattern. This is actually in Biscayne Bay in Miami, and the waves come from everywhere because we are surrounded by land. So that makes it really, really hard. But understand, see how easily he does it? He's using a bit too much of rudder, but mainly the position, the transits, and the flicking of the leech. That's what you need to be looking at. Okay. Now in this video is overtaking waves, okay? So it's even more hardcore conditions. I choose this video because I will go really close to the sailor. First, in the first time we see the video, look at the position of the sailor, the difference in the legs, okay? Completely locked, and look at his legs. Grabbing from the tiller, from the bottom of the tiller extension, front leg squeezed against the front of the cockpit, back leg under the strap and further back. So it's completely under control, lifting the bow, as you can see in the video, okay? And in this video, when I repeat it, you will see, well, you see the shape of the leech is exactly the same. However, as the wind increases to keep the same shape on the leech, you will need to pull more and more kicker. So the kicker increases as the wind increases as well to keep the same shape on the leech. Let's see this video again. Once we saw the position, now, as the video moves forward, you can see that he's sailing with an angle, of course, he's playing the main sheet, but as the video moves forward, now look, it's quite easy to find intersections on the wave. You can see that what he's aiming at now is to go to the lowest part on the wave there on the right, which is a connection. He gets it, and now he can bet away again to get into the next wave. So he didn't stop, okay? So that's what we want. He found an intersection. Now that the video is over, look, there is another intersection here. The wave is here, and we have a lower part all the time, either on the left or on the right. And that's what we need to search on these conditions, because we don't want our bow to splash, to dunk, sorry. So let's see it again. He goes for the intersection, points up, lowest part, and now he can bet away to the next wave again, okay? Really important, keep up with the angle of the main sheet, okay? The main sheet and the heel lead the movement, is not the rudder. If you lead the movement with the rudder, you will lose control over the boat, okay? You will lose control, you will most likely not catch the wave, and that's very dangerous, because if you put the rudder first, you will lose the sensitivity to which angle you are doing, and you can lose control over the boat, okay? So that was downwind. Downwind requires a lot of work. That's why I put that is an art almost. It's almost a different type of sailing from the rest of the racing legs. It requires a lot of hours. And if you think about it, when we train is actually the thing we train the less, because 1 hour upwind is what, 15 minutes downwind maybe. So we mainly train upwind, reaching, and then downwind stays a little bit in the back. But downwind is the most important one, okay? Now let's go to the last topic, which is tack and jibing. Tack and jibing in these conditions, we take it to the most basic, but it's still quite hard because, well, what we want in these conditions mainly is to keep the boat under control. We want to tack to keep the boat under control and to try to keep our speed as much as we can. We know that we are not going to increase the speed of the boat by tacking or jibing in these conditions. The boat will naturally have a better speed sailing normally than when we tack. It's not like in light conditions where we can pump in the exit and increase our boat speed momentaneously. No. Here we don't want to increase speed. We want to keep it as much as we can, but more than that, we want to keep control under the boat all the time, okay? So let's go first through the tacking and then through the jibing. Okay, tacking for the opti sailors that might still be here is the same thing as in the opti, in the most basic thing. We want to go from one side to the other, from one hiking position to hiking position on the other side, as fast as we can to keep the boat flat and to keep it under control. Okay, that's a thing, we need it, that's fine. In the laser, what we do is that you know that you put your leg under the strap. So if I'm sailing starboard in this situation, if I'm sailing starboard, I want to put my back leg under the strap, okay, before I start the tack. So when I jump to the other side, straight into the hiking position, that feet is already on the strap. So that's really important for you to be able to perform the tack. So leg on the other side, so you are already with your feet on the strap when you jump to the other side. Okay, after that's done, I have my feet on the other side of the strap. I pull my main sheet, and in these conditions, I can use the rudder quite a lot. I use the rudder, and I just shoulder to the boom, use the rudder, shoulder to the boom, because it's the only way to go under the boom. Remember, in these conditions, you have so much kicker tension. The boom is so low that if you try to go straight forward to the boom, you are going to get stuck either in your life jacket or in your gear, and then you are going to capsize. So I point, pull my main sheet, leg under the strap, the back leg, and shoulder to the boom. As I give my shoulder to the boom, the hand of the tiller is going to be the first one to grab the rail on the other side. So I just tack, shoulder to the boom, jump straight, hiking to the other side, okay? The feet is already there, and then I just twist my body weight. I go to the other side, falling with my body weight first on my front leg, and then I twist it back. It's like I want my bow to go first on the water, and then I want it to come out again to keep it stable. So first, all body weight onto the front leg, and then you twist it to the back one. What is the key ingredient for this movement? The key ingredient for this movement is as in almost all the things we do in sailing, is the main sheet. What I need to do is that once my body weight arrives to the other side, I need to release the main sheet. And I need to release the main sheet as much as I need to keep the boat flat. So jump to, not jump, sorry. You go to the other side, keeping contact with the boat, body weight into the front leg. And as I do this, I release my main sheet. I release my main sheet. As I rotate my body, I pull it back in because I'm already hiking and I'm already under control. But it's really important that you release it once you arrive to the other side. Once, yes, to depower the sail, but more than that, to open up the leech because you have a new angle. You still are not in the proper angle that you should be sailing up with. So to keep your rudder straight on the water, first of all, to keep the boat under control, and again, to do this leech opening to depower, we need to open up our main sheet. That's a key ingredient, okay? So let's go forward. Let's see the example of the tack, and then we go back to see the jibing, to go through the jibing part. Okay, this is maybe 16 knots of wind. It's already full hiking conditions, okay? Even if in the video doesn't show, you know that one thing is on the water, another thing is on the video. So let's see what happens. In the first time I play the video, I want you to just focus on the body movement, okay? Body movement. So you can see that the leg went to the other side of the strap, and you can see the rotation that I told you. Falling to the front leg and rotating to the back as I pull my main sheet. Let's see it again. So first step, the leg on the other side of the strap, shoulder to the boom, going to the other side, front leg, back leg, okay? The timing of pulling back the main sheet is up to yourselves. If you are still struggling controlling the boat and the boat is not flat, you can wait until you finish the rotation. If you did the rotation and you are okay enough to pull the main sheet as you rotate, then do that, is better, okay? So we saw the body movement. Now see the main sheet, okay? As the leg goes to the other side of the strap, it pulls it. As he arrives, he releases it, okay? You can see the boom went out, okay? Let's see it again. So you can clearly see that he releases quite a lot the main sheet when he arrives to the other side, okay? So tack and release. You can see there, okay? The release comes when I arrive to the other side and I perform the pump. It's the same thing as I'm in the top of the wave. Every time I pump in a sailing boat, I need to release the main sheet to take the advantage out of the pump. No releasing, no opening on the leech, no extra power, okay? So that's the concept. This is the concept on the tack. What happens is that more and more wind, the faster I need to perform this, this movement, okay? But this rotation is the key. It's quite important beside the main sheet use, okay? Going back into the jibing. Well, jibing in these conditions shouldn't be just praying to all heavens not to capsize or not to get smashed by the boom and not to capsize. You should feel comfortable enough. It's actually quite easy. It is less risk than making a perfect roll jibe in light wind. There is less risk involved. So what is the gold rule when jibing these conditions? The boat needs to be going quite fast. Why? We need to increase our apparent wind as much as we can before we perform the jibe. By doing that, we decrease a little bit all the power we feel from the main sheet on the sail, and it's quite easy to jibe, okay? You will not, the sail will not be fully powerful, and then you jibe, and there is so much power that even if you jump to the other side, the boat will capsize. So that means that it needs to be while the boat is planning mode completely, or while you are surfing. With waves is once you are surfing and on the wave, then it's time to jibe, because then you will keep surfing or planning, but more than that, you will keep the boat under control and it's going to be easy to perform the jibe, okay? The other key ingredient is that since we are waiting for that moment to jibe, then we need to change our body weight from one side to the other in the perfect moment as well. So I start the jibe, and the first common mistake when you jibe, even in 16, 18 knots, most of the sailors try to lean the boat to the sail side and then pull it all at once to their side. Remember and think about this like if it was downwind again. The heel is the key. So if I want the boat to better way to jibe, without using as less rudder as possible and without changing my angle a lot, because I want to change the angle as less as I can. Well, because I don't want to do extra distance just because I'm jiving. I'm not going to take any benefit out of that. So I start pulling my main sheet as I jive, and I lean the boat out, I heel the boat automatically to my side. So the boat bears away by itself. Then, as the boom is in the middle of the boat, I should be already crossing to the other side. So when I'm going under the boom, I should see the boom here. I should be already going, otherwise it's too late. Okay, I go to the other side, I sit as far forward as I can, and as my body weight arrives to the other side, I release my main sheet. Okay, that's really, really important. It's the same as in tackling. Sorry. So first rule, keep the boat under control. So to do that while surfing or planning. The second one, use the heel for your own benefit. Try to not use the rudder. So as you pull the main sheet, the boat needs to heel to your side. And the third, shake your position all the time. So as the boom is in the middle of the boat, you should see it already from this side. It should be already almost arriving to the other side, and you release the main sheet as you arrive with your body weight to the other side. Let's see the videos. Let's see the video so you can see it. Okay, it's the same day, same conditions, it's surfing conditions. So the boat leans to my side. It was surfing. It seems so natural and easy, but it isn't. The timing is the key, okay? So I will put it again. First, shake the moment he chooses to jibe. It's not the one he leans the boat to the sail side. That's the one that's the movement he does to get on the wave, okay? Wait, sorry. So once he's on the wave and surfing, that's the moment he starts pulling the main sheet and heeling the boat straight away to his side. And then it seems like there is no power on the sail because he's surfing. So he sits as far forward as he can, and then, as you can see, he's already surfing the next wave again. Let's see this last part because it's quite important. Okay, jump to the other side as forward as he can. He releases the main sheet automatically to produce more power, and he's back on the wave. So the timing was perfect. He keeps surfing and keeps doing the movement that we were talking before. So that's what we want. Of course, that with more and more wind, the jibe is faster and faster and faster, okay? I choose this one with 16, 18 knots because I think it's the easiest one for you to see all the steps. If I choose one with 25 knots, it's going to be really hard for you to understand part to part what was happening. So this is the best one. Okay, guys, so we went to tacking, jibing, reaching, downwind, and upwind. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you have any questions about it.
Thanks, Miguel, and that was, a lot of attention to detail, and I think it was a fantastic presentation. Thanks very much, and I must tell everybody, thanks very much for coming in completely pro bono and not charging us even a single euro or rupee for this. Thanks very much, Miguel. So the questions are as follows from Lakshmi Chandram of YCH. If a laser 4.7, in a laser 4.7, if a sailor don't have much weight to manage in heavy wind, which part of the body a sailor should use more?
Sorry, Swim, can you repeat that?
Yeah. In a 4.7, if a sailor doesn't have much, for a light sailor, okay, in heavy wind, which part of the body should you use more?
On the upwind, you mean?
Yes.
On the upwind. Okay, the part of the body is not a part of the body. The thing you should use the most is the main sheet. Main sheet is the key ingredient to keep the boat under control when you are, even if you are very light and you are sailing in a 4.7. As the wind increases more and more, your protection is going to be pulling the kicker even more to allow you to use the main sheet even more. The position is hiking full on, and the part of your body that you will use always as most as you can is the legs. The upper body keeps out. That's the main difference between the optimist and going through the laser. Now our connection and the work comes from the legs. It's not just the upper body going from one side to the other. That was easy peasy, that was before. Now it comes from the legs. And the key ingredient, if you are lighter, is to release even more the main sheet. In the laser, it's quite fun to see that if you pull a lot more the kicker and you release more the main sheet, as long as the boat is going flat, even if it means that you are going lower, it will have more speed. So one thing will balance the other. Of course, you cannot be like 40 kilos, but if you are 40 kilos even, then you need to eat a lot more. But if you are 60 around that and you have another sailor with 70, the difference on angle will be equivalent by the difference of speed. So the answer is use your legs as much as you can and protect yourself with a main sheet.
So the leading question is that if you're using the main sheet, you're talking about releasing and pulling the main sheet every time the gust comes up. Is
Yes.
that?
Gust, wave, every time you need to depower the boat, yeah.
Release the main sheet and bring it back. What muscle is the most important for good heavy wind main sheet management?
Is the forward shoulder. Everything comes from the shoulder. So if you are in this position all the time with your main sheet here on your chest, is the front shoulder that is working out. So as you stretch and as you pull, you will see that it's always the shoulder that is doing this. There is a bit of bicep as well, but mainly is the shoulder. So main muscles is shoulder for the main sheet and legs and core for the hiking.
Next question is from Satish Yadav. How to body trim in heavy wind?
Body trim.
Yeah, how do you trim the body, which means your body weight?
How do you perform your body weight? So it's the same in gusts and lulls, that is the same in waves. So first of all, the upper body is completely locked out. So hike from the top of your toes. To achieve that, the hiking staff needs to be totally tight. When you do that, you are going to put your legs completely together with the boat, and that will allow you to go with your shoulders out. Then the shoulders don't leave that position, they keep out. Then an increase of wind will mean that I need to go with my body weight more to the back. But instead of doing it with my upper body, I just rotate my body weight and put more body on the back leg. If there is a decrease on wind, I go with my body weight to the front leg. So this is true for gust and lull as it is to go up and down the wave.
Okay, now this is a question. When screaming down a wave, the sail tends to flutter and flap like as if it is underpowered.
Okay.
Is that okay, or do we need to pull in the main sheet or laugh a better way?
Yeah. So that means that you are going in a straight downwind. If you have enough angle when you are surfing the wave, the sail will never come back to you. So it's what I was telling you. Straight downwind is a dangerous thing to do, and it's slower. So if the sail is so soft that it wants to come back to you, that means that you are going a lot faster than the wind itself. So the wind is backing again. So if you keep angle, that will never happen. Because the end of that story, if you are in that situation, the end of that story is always crashing against the next one. So we don't want that end of the story. We want to keep the boat going fast. So make sure you always have an angle. It doesn't mean necessarily that you need to pull more the main sheet or release. It just means that the angle you are doing accordingly to the wave is completely wrong. It's too straight down. It cannot be like that. Always with an angle.
Thanks very much. The next question is, sometimes the gust is so strong and the waves are a bit slower. How do you play this condition?
The gusts are so strong and the waves are a bit slower. Okay, how do you play these conditions? That's a tricky one. Well, in the gust, the reaction is to always be releasing the main sheet as much as you can. So if the waves are slower, that means that you will need to go lower as well. If I pinch my boat, so if I'm pinching and I'm trying to go completely squeezing, completely full upwind, that will bring a lot of instability. And with the gust, I'm going to be unable, with a different speed of gust and wave, I'm going to be unable to coordinate the main sheet for one thing and for the other. So eventually I might be ending up trying to release for the gust and being the time that I want to be pointing up with the wave. So the best thing to do is to change the angle in which you are attacking the wave. So if I release my main sheet, let's say one hand between the blocks, so the boom is going out because, well, we are talking about strong wind. I bear away a bit, and just by changing that angle that I'm attacking the wave, that's going to allow me to keep playing the gust and not being just smashing all the time into the wave. But that can happen, but it is quite easy to misjudge that the gust is in a different spin on the wave because the apparent wind comes always a little bit before the wave strikes us. But the gust is not a gust, it's just apparent wind coming with the wave. It is quite rare to have gusts faster than the waves because, well, the waves are mainly produced by the wind itself.
Thanks. Next one is from Ashish Vishwakarma of NSS Bhopal. if the wind was too heavy, how to tack on wave to prevent capsize? If the wind is really heavy, how do you tack?
The concept is the same that I was telling before on the other tack. That tack that you saw there was in waves, not 25 knots, but was 18 knots. So the wind was already quite strong, and the idea keeps being the same. But again, if there is more wind and if there is more waves, beside the place on the wave, you need to choose to tack. But even with strong wind, you need to choose to tack where? You need to choose to tack in a place where you're going to finish the tack with wind. So either going up or on the top of the wave. Finishing going down is never a good policy, because 1 second after the wind is back up, and then you are going to struggle to keep the boat flat and to trim it, beside the speed you lose. So one thing is choosing the place to tack. And since I know that I'm going to finish with wind, as strong as it possibly can be, and with the waves, I just use more main sheet. I release it a lot more. Don't be afraid of releasing it a lot more. The boat will not fall to your side. You release it, you keep it under control, and you pull it back in.
Next one is from Pankaj Kumar, INWTC. How to choose the depth of the sail, which is the outhaul.
Yeah.
Outhaul in big waves and short chops.
Okay. So in chops and swell, the first thing, so I don't mislead you. In all the other range of conditions, we know that what controls not the power of, well, the power of the sail, what controls the deepness on the luff of the sail, which is what allows us to have this which allow us to steer through the waves, to work through the waves, is the canyon. But here we have to have the canyon completely tied on. So the only thing that we have left is to play a little bit with the outro. Okay, so in choppy conditions, you need to have it a little bit more out, because, well, you need the draft, which is that deepness on the sail that we are talking about, a little bit more forward on the sail. So we release it slightly, not a lot, but we release it slightly. We don't want our outhole to be shaping up, coming to our side, okay? We want the outhole to have shape in choppy, in strong wind conditions. In the swell, however, we need to pull it, okay? We need to pull it more. Again, it's not until the moment where the outhole is without any shape. No, we need shape, but we need to put the outhole as close as you can to the boom. Why? Is because in swell, the difference on wind is so much, and the increase on the wind strength on the top of the wave is so big that we don't want that extra power for anything. The increasement of wind going up and the decrease going down the wave is by itself the difference we need on those different parts on the wave. So trimming wise, we need to have the sail even flatter than we would with the choppy conditions.
Brilliant. It is important to use, is it important to use body movement to luff and bear away instead of the rudder? I'm talking about across running, reaching, and beating. How important is use the body weight, and how do you practice this?
The body weight. Okay,
through the luff and bear away.
Yeah, through the reach and downwind, it is the key. Is only body weight. There is almost no rudder. There is almost no rudder in the process, or at least we need to try to reduce the usage of rudder as much as you can. More in the downwind, a little bit less on the reach, but still try to use as less as we can. Then on the upwind, in choppy and swell, and even in flat conditions, we will need to steer quite aggressively to keep our bow stable. However, we are still trying to use our body as much as we can, but it's not a matter of balance on the upwind. It's just to enhance that steering. We are steering, we want the bow to respond, and since we want the bow to respond in a particular way, we add the body movement. Then on the reach and the downwind, it's just for heel control. We want the heeling to do the change on directions that we want to do. Okay, to practice that, the best thing you can possibly do is not even in very strong winds try to do it, but for example, try to see in very light wind days, go to a particularly big angle, okay? And understand first, okay, if I am going by the lead this much and I don't flatten the boat, what happens? If I flatten the boat and I lean it to the sail side, what happens? After you understand that with rudder, you should be able to do it without absolutely any rudder, okay? So to answer better that question, let me just, I think I can do this. I will share with you a video quite quickly, which shows that quite well. Let me just go and find it. because this steering requires a lot of training, that's for sure. Here it is. Okay. You are seeing the video, no?
Not as yet, it's still black.
Ah, okay. Now you are seeing it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how you practice it. There is no rudder, absolutely no rudder on the video. And you can see that just by the body weight, flattening the boat points it up, pulling it to your side, bears it away. And the boat by itself does the angle that I was talking to you about, because that's the fastest way. So this is without any rudder. And you start by doing this, so you can then create the habit of not using the rudder in other conditions.
Fantastic. So, yeah, it's important actually to sail without the rudder and
Yeah.
get your body weight sorted out. Last question for the day is, how can, when you're sailing by the lee, sometimes you tend to bear away too much and you're going completely off course.
Yeah.
What is the optimal angle? This has come from Alok Pandey. What is the optimal angle?
The optimum angle. So the optimum angle is quite easy to see. So the thing is that when you go by the lee, on your leeward side of the sail, on the opposite side of the sail, the flow is going to be in reverse. So your tail is going to be pointing to the mast, from the leech to the mast, not from the mast to the leech. So as you bear away, you want to achieve that. You want to see your leeward tail flowing from the leech to the mast. When you arrive at, that's just enough. If you go too much, then the sail will want to jibe. And if you don't reach that point, you are not taking the benefit of going by the lee, because you don't have this reverse flow, which is what gives you more speed and lift.
Thanks, guys. I think it's time to call it a day. Important to tell you that please, these videos are going to come up on the YI website, onto the YI Facebook page, and you should watch them over and over and over again. And I don't think even watching them about 30, 40 times is a bad thing, because every time you watch it, you learn a little new thing, put it into practice on the water. And I think thanks very much for being there. We've had a wonderful audience. Thanks, Miguel. Thanks very, very much once again. Miguel's resume has been sent to everybody, and he runs Viana Sailing Center in Portugal. A lot of our kids have already been there many times, from Bombay, from Hyderabad, and I would encourage all of you to go there. He's probably one of the world's finest laser coaches. Thanks, Miguel. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please respond to the poll which is coming on.